I never imagined I'd become the kind of woman who would quietly investigate her own husband. That kind of thing happens in movies or gossip threads, not in real marriages, not in a life you believe is stable. Yet there I was, sitting in my car across the street from a glass tower in downtown San Francisco, hands tight around the steering wheel, heart pounding, staring at a confirmation email that had just turned my reality inside out. My name is Lena Moore, and I had been married to Ethan Brooks for 8 years. 8 years of what I believed was loyalty, partnership, shared sacrifice. Ethan was the founder and CEO of a fast-rising tech company called Vertex Systems. When I met him, he was just another sharp engineer with ambition and caffeine-fueled dreams. Back then, I was a marketing director, respected, independent, earning well, loving the pace and pressure of my career. We built a life together, or at least that's what I thought. 3 years into our marriage, Vertex exploded. Investors poured in, headlines followed, and Ethan disappeared into 18-hour workdays. He slept at the office more than he slept beside me. When he asked me to step back from my career, just for a while, to manage our home, to support him while he built something bigger than both of us, I said yes. Because I loved him. Because I believed in us. That was 5 years ago. Now at 34, I was ready to return to work. I missed being seen, being heard, being useful outside the walls of our expensive apartment. Ethan was rarely home. Always distracted, always tired, always distant. I had become background noise in my own marriage. So I started applying for jobs. Quietly, carefully. Then I saw it. A senior marketing role at Vertex Systems. I almost scrolled past it. Ethan had always insisted on keeping work and marriage separate. No complications, he used to say. No blurred lines. But something in me paused. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the quiet ache of wanting to remind him who I used to be. I applied under my maiden name, Lena Carter, late on a Tuesday night. I told myself I'd surprise him later, if it worked out. The response came faster than expected. An interview invitation, Friday afternoon. I spent days preparing, researching the company I thought I knew, polishing ideas, feeling something awaken inside me, something that had been sleeping far too long. When I walked into Vertex's sleek glass lobby, everything felt unfamiliar, and yet deeply personal. I checked in, rode the elevator up, steadying my breath. The interview went better than I imagined. Ideas flowed, strategies clicked, genuine excitement filled the room. Then the question came. A simple one. Do you have any personal relationships with anyone at Vertex? I answered honestly. My husband is Ethan Brooks. The silence that followed was not normal. It was heavy, uncomfortable, revealing. And when the HR director finally spoke again, her voice was soft, almost apologetic. I'm so sorry, but Ethan's wife already works here. In that moment, the ground didn't just shift beneath me, it collapsed. And I hadn't even seen the full truth yet. I sat there frozen, staring at her, convinced I had misheard. Already works here. I repeated quietly, my voice sounding foreign even to me. The HR director stood up too quickly, her chair scraping the floor. She said she needed to check something, then left the room, closing the door a little too fast. That's when the silence became unbearable. My hands were shaking. I pulled out my phone, opened LinkedIn, something I had never once done for Ethan's company. Why would I have? I trusted him. I typed a name she had mentioned. Claire Brooks. Vertex Systems. Her profile loaded instantly. A polished headshot, confident smile, early 30s, professional, composed. Title, Head of Operations. Tenure, 3 years. 3 years. My chest tightened. 3 years was exactly when. Ethan started traveling more when weekends disappeared, when excuses became routine. I scrolled. Company events, conferences, retreats. Then I saw it. A photo from a beachside company getaway. Casual, relaxed, sunlit. And there, unmistakably on her wrist, was a bracelet I recognized instantly. Because I had watched Ethan buy it. 8 months earlier, he told me he was flying to New York on business. When he returned, I found a receipt in his jacket. $8,000. Diamond bracelet. When I asked about it, he snapped at me. It's for a client's wife, Lena. This is how deals get closed. You wouldn't understand. I had felt small, ashamed, ignorant. And now I was staring at the truth, glowing casually on another woman's wrist. The door opened again. This time, the HR director wasn't alone. She brought in Mark Reynolds, the company's CFO. His face was pale, tired, serious. "Miss Carter," he said carefully, deliberately using my maiden name. "We need to talk." What followed didn't feel real. Apparently, everyone at Vertex believed Claire was Ethan's wife. She attended investor dinners. She was listed as his emergency contact. She introduced herself as Mrs. Brooks. Ethan had told them I was his ex, that I'd moved away, that I preferred privacy, that I didn't like corporate events. I laughed, but it came out sharp, broken. I had hosted dinners for his colleagues for years. I had stood confidently in front of boardrooms. I had built brands from scratch. He had erased me, carefully, deliberately. Mark lowered his voice. There are also financial irregularities. Expenses that don't add up. Trips for two, charged as solo travel. Luxury purchases hidden in budgets. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, something cold and focused settled in my chest. Because I finally understood something that hit harder than betrayal. This wasn't just an affair. It was a double life. And he had built it using my silence, my sacrifice, and my trust. And that was a mistake he was about to pay for. Mark hesitated for only a moment before opening his laptop. What I saw next didn't just hurt. It hollowed me out. Receipts, spreadsheets, timestamps. Luxury flights charged as business travel. 5-star hotels labeled client development. Jewelry buried under marketing expenses. A condo near the bay. Paid through a shell company. Funded by Vertex money. Nearly $2 million. 3 years. Ethan hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. He'd been stealing, carefully, methodically, confident no one would ever question him. "Why didn't you go to the board?" I asked, my voice barely steady. Mark exhaled slowly. "I tried. 6 months ago. But Ethan's the founder, majority shareholder. The board trusts him. They thought I was threatened, jealous of Claire's position. I understood then how deep Ethan's web of lies ran. He hadn't just fooled me. He'd manipulated an entire company. But he'd made one fatal mistake. He underestimated me. I asked for copies of everything. Every transaction, every email, every expense that mentioned Claire. Mark hesitated, then nodded. "You deserve the truth," he said quietly. I left Vertex that day with a flash, drive in my purse and something sharper, then pain in my chest, clarity. I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to the house of Evelyn Hart, my former mentor, the woman who had once warned me not to shrink my life to fit someone else's ambition. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, poured us both wine, then said the words I already knew were coming. "You need a lawyer. And not just a divorce lawyer." I nodded. "I know. But first I need a job. I can't fight him as the woman who gave everything up. I need to stand on my own feet." Evelyn studied me for a long moment, then smiled, slow and knowing. "My firm's been looking for a VP of marketing." 3 weeks later, I had my own office again. My own income. my own name on the door. At the same time, I hired Rachel King, a divorce attorney, known for dismantling powerful men who thought they were untouchable. We didn't confront Ethan. That was important. We waited. I watched him lie effortlessly over dinner. Listened to him complain about work, mention Claire's name casually, never realizing how loaded it sounded now. Then one night, I casually mentioned I was thinking about applying to Vertex. The color drained from his face. That wouldn't be appropriate, he said too quickly. I smiled. That was when I knew. He was scared. And fear, I had learned, always means the truth is close. The board meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. By then, everything was ready. Rachel and I had prepared the documents carefully, not emotionally, not dramatically, just facts. Dates, numbers, receipts. Travel logs that matched Claire's vacation days. Company footage showing Ethan and Claire arriving together early mornings, leaving late nights. Screenshots of social posts. Introductions. Investor events where she was presented as his wife. The truth. Clean and undeniable. The night before the meeting, Rachel sent the file to every board member's personal email. Not their company accounts. Their private ones. She also sent it to 3 tech journalists known for covering executive scandals. At 8:30 the next morning, my phone started ringing. Ethan. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. Finally, I answered. We need to talk, he said. His voice frantic, cracked in a way I'd never heard. I can explain everything. Can you? I asked calmly. Can you explain the fraud? The stolen money? The second wife? Silence. Then begging. I'll end it. I'll fix it. We can go to therapy, please. I felt nothing but resolve. What I want, I said, my voice steady, is a divorce. And half of everything. Everything I helped build while you erased me. You'll destroy me, he whispered. No, I said softly, you already did that. I'm just making sure everyone sees it. I hung up. By noon, Ethan Brooks had been placed on administrative leave. An independent audit was launched. The board vote was unanimous. That evening, the story broke. A rising tech CEO accused of embezzlement, fraud, and deception. Claire resigned 2 days later. I didn't feel victorious. I felt exhausted, heavy, clear. The divorce lasted 6 months. Rachel dismantled every lie, every transfer, every manipulation. The judge ruled that Ethan had drained marital assets to fund his affair, damaging my earning potential. I received the apartment, half the remaining liquid assets, and a long-term settlement. Ethan took a plea deal. Probation. Restitution. His reputation in Silicon Valley was gone. Vertex survived, barely. And then, something unexpected happened. The board called me. They wanted new leadership. Ethical leadership. Someone who understood the damage and the cost of silence. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting. I was choosing. And that choice would change everything. I didn't accept the offer right away. I needed time, not to grieve, but to breathe. When I finally stepped into the CEO role at Vertex Systems, the irony wasn't lost on anyone. The woman who'd been erased had returned, not as a wife, not as a shadow, but as the one holding the responsibility. My first decision wasn't about profit. It was about trust. We implemented strict ethics policies, transparent expense reporting, and anonymous systems for accountability. No exceptions. No protected names. Then I did something no one expected. I called Claire. We met at a quiet cafe, neutral ground. She looked smaller than I remembered, tired, humbled. I didn't know about you, she said, voice trembling. I really didn't. I believed her. She'd been manipulated, just like I had, just from a different angle. I offered her job back, not out of kindness, but because she was capable, because her work had held the company together when everything else was collapsing. Healing, I learned, isn't always gentle. Sometimes it's choosing integrity over bitterness. 2 years later, Vertex went public. On the trading floor, surrounded by people who had stood beside me when everything fell apart, I thought about the woman I'd been, sitting alone in a conference room, hearing about another Mrs. Brooks. I barely recognized her now. I had rebuilt my career, my confidence, my sense of self. I didn't define myself by what I survived, but by what I chose to build afterward. Later that night, the man I loved, patient, steady, honest, asked me a simple question. Do you regret it? I thought about the pain, the humiliation, the fear of starting over in my 30s. No, I said, because I didn't lose my life. I reclaimed it. Ethan had tried to make me invisible. Instead, he revealed exactly who I was. Not the CEO's wife. The CEO, and more importantly, a woman who finally understood this truth, quietly, powerfully, without apology. I was always enough.